Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans and you're watching the John Cedars channel from the bunker. And this is a video with a difference because I will be playing and responding to a voicemail that is, it seems, from a Jehovah's Witness. Now, just to give you a bit of background, the channel does indeed have a voicemail function, and I do receive quite a few voicemails. Apologies if I'm not able to reply to or acknowledge all of them. I do try to reply to at least some. I got a voicemail through in response to my most watched video, which is everything you need to know about Jehovah's Witnesses in 5 minutes. This video now has, I'm delighted to say, over 1 million views. And it ranks quite highly when you type in Jehovah's Witnesses on YouTube. So perhaps predictably, it gets a lot of reaction from Jehovah's Witnesses in the comments. And for the first time, it seems, a Jehovah's Witness has gone as far as to leave me a voicemail with some criticisms of the video. So without further ado, let's play the voicemail and I will do my best to answer those criticisms.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Lloyd. You said something about on your video on YouTube, 5 things. What you need to know about Jehovah's Witnesses in 5 minutes. And in the video, you mentioned that when you get baptized, automatically you pledge your alliance to the organization. Well, I would just like to correct your thinking as regards that. I don't know if that was, should I say, the idea you had when you were once a witness. That is, if you were once really a witness. When you get baptized, you actually do not pledge your alliance to the organization. No, you actually pledge an alliance to your Creator. In fact, before you get baptized, you must have studied the Bible using Bible study aids, and you should, I repeat, you should not get baptized unless you fully understand the meaning of what you have studied. So if you don't understand it and then you just jump into getting baptized, then definitely you would think it is the organization you actually pledge alliance to. So that is a serious mistake. It's unreasonable to say you have to pledge alliance to a particular religion. And secondly, you have the right, you have every right to choose. Personally, I have a right to say I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, and no one has the right to stop me from being that. So, and all of the things you mentioned are not all about Jehovah's Witnesses. You failed to mention so many points about witnesses. You just mentioned it started with City Russell and the Watchtower, the mistakes of the so-called predictions, and that is not all. There are still lots of things. So please, I think you should really work on that video. That is not all at all.
So perhaps I should have mentioned that the caller identifies himself as Dan. There was no email address, so I wasn't unfortunately able to email him and invite him on the channel. And I should probably also mention that it's kind of a rule with the voicemails that you only leave a voicemail if you're comfortable to have it played on the channel, and you indicate clearly in the voicemail if you're not comfortable with having it played on the channel, and Dan didn't do that, so that's why I'm playing the voicemail. I'll take his second point first, which is, there's all sorts of things you didn't mention about Jehovah's Witnesses that you should have mentioned. Dan, the title of the video wasn't everything about Jehovah's Witnesses. It was everything you need to know about Jehovah's Witnesses in 5 minutes. Now, Dan's idea of what people need to know about Jehovah's Witnesses as a Jehovah's Witness, assuming he is a Jehovah's Witness, and I think that's a fairly safe bet. Dan's idea will clearly be different to my idea as someone who is a former Jehovah's Witness and more familiar with the damaging, abusive, harmful side of the religion than he is. My approach to making the video was to direct it to people who've never been Jehovah's Witnesses, who are perhaps curious to know more about the religion, and to tell such ones, look, it's bad news. It's an untrue set of beliefs, or at the very least, it's no more true as a religion than any other religion. On top of that, there are abusive elements to the religion. So is it worthwhile getting involved? Definitely not. Having said that, I was also very keen to include a message at the end of the video that Jehovah's Witnesses can't help this. They cannot help promoting an organization that is wrong or harmful, especially if they've been deceived into joining, or in many cases indoctrinated as children. It's therefore wrong to be in any way unkind or derisory of witnesses that you may meet. It's far better to be kind to them and understanding of the predicament they have found themselves in. So I think Dan fundamentally misunderstands the purpose of the video and probably the title as well. So that's answered his second point. His first point was really, I guess you could say, 2 points. Number one, that I was wrong when I said when you are baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, you pledge yourself to the organization for life. Dan's point was that you don't pledge yourself to the organization, you dedicate yourself to Jehovah. So apparently I was wrong to say that you pledge yourself to the organization when you get baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And a further point to that was Dan's suggestion that when you get baptized, you do so knowing everything that you need to know about the religion, being fully briefed as to what you're letting yourself in for. And when you leave, you are free to do so. You're not prevented in any way from leaving the religion. Hopefully I've been fair in summarizing his argument there. All I would say as regards pledging yourself to the organization, I think Dan would do well to refer to the baptism questions that he will have had to answer if he got baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. The baptism questions are to be found in the Organized to Do Jehovah's Will book. Now, they have changed slightly since I made the video in question. So when I made the video in question, the first question was, on the basis of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, have you repented of your sins and dedicated yourself to Jehovah to do his will? And the second question, do you understand that your dedication and baptism identify you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with God's Spirit-directed organization? So 2 questions there that require a loud and affirmative yes for all candidates who are about to be baptized at Jehovah's Witness assemblies and conventions. I mentioned that they have changed slightly. The questions as of May 2019 have been, question 1, have you repented of your sins, dedicated yourself to Jehovah, and accepted his way of salvation through Jesus Christ? Question 2, do you understand that your baptism identifies you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with Jehovah's organization? So I guess you could say, and I'm not going to go into the differences between the questions, I've already dealt with that in another video, but I guess you could say that if you're going to summarize these two questions, the first one is you're dedicating yourself to Jehovah, which is what Dan's referring to. But you cannot just isolate that as being the only question. There are two. The second question is, do you realize that being a Jehovah's Witness involves being in association with Jehovah's organization? So you can't take one and say, well, this is the only one that matters. It's both that matter. You pledge yourself to Jehovah, but if you were to only pledge yourself to Jehovah, then you'd get to decide for yourself what the rules are, wouldn't you? You'd be able to say, well, I'm Dan and I have a personal relationship with Jehovah, and Jehovah is actually telling me that even though the organization says do X, Y, Z, I can actually do something different because I have a personal relationship with Jehovah and I pledged myself to Jehovah when I got baptized, so I get to decide what Jehovah wants from me, and you can't tell me otherwise. No, that's why you have the second question, which says you don't get to call yourself a Jehovah's Witness unless you understand that you are identified with and in association with his organization. In other words, you are answerable to the organization, and this is a pledge that stays with you forever. You can never get out of it, which takes me to the second part of Dan's criticism, which is that people who get baptized know what they're doing. They're going into it fully aware of what all the rules are, of what all the teachings are. Well, Dan, if that's the case, how can it be that there are recorded instances in the literature of witnesses getting baptized as young as 7? Do you really think a 7-year-old is in a position to fully understand what they are signing up to for life? Are you the same as you were when you were 7? I'm certainly not the same as I was when I was 7. I'm not the same as I was when I was 11, which is when I got baptized. I'm not even the same as I was when I was 30, and I'm now 40. We change as we go through life. We change our views. We change our ideas. We feel differently towards more or less everything than how we felt when we were children. And yet Jehovah's Witnesses have no problems indoctrinating and baptizing children. And speaking for myself, and I'm sure many who are watching this video will agree with this, when I was baptized at 11, it was on the basis of bad information. It was on the basis of information that has since turned out to be entirely wrong. I was baptized in the era of the generation that will not pass away. So I was baptized with the promise that the generation that witnessed the events of 1914 would not die off before Armageddon came. And that just got swept aside in, I think, 1995. You now have the overlapping generation. So the teachings upon which you base your dedication themselves change. So your argument that, oh, you know what you're signing yourself up to is entirely wrong, because what you're signing yourself up to is constantly in a state of flux. Someone who got baptized in 1972 would have been doing so on the understanding that in 1975 Armageddon was coming, or that at least 1975 was a date of crucial significance in Bible prophecy. Watchtower just gets to continually move the goalposts as to what it is that Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to believe, but Jehovah's Witnesses themselves are kept to their pledge to the extent where someone like me gets baptized when they're 11, and 23 years later, when I'm 33 years old, I'm still being held to that decision, so that 3 elders in my local congregation pull me into a judicial committee and basically disassociate me on grounds of apostasy, with the consequence that my believing family should shun me, with the consequence that my father still hasn't met both of his grandchildren, both of my children. So don't tell me, Dan, that there are no consequences, that anyone is free to leave, or that people who get baptized do so with their eyes wide open. That is simply not how it works, I'm afraid. I don't expect you to come to that realization now, by the way. I'm just giving you my perspective. Hopefully one day you will share this perspective, but I'm frankly not going to lose any sleep if you feel that Jehovah's Witnesses is the thing for you. Just understand that, at least from my perspective, it's wrong to indoctrinate children with things that can't be proven, force them to effectively sign a contract, and hold them to that contract for the rest of their lives, with the penalty of cutting them off from their parents, from everyone they know and love, if they ever change their minds. There's no excuse for that sort of thing. And I think your objection is to the part of the video where I make very clear that that's, apart from anything else, a violation of people's human rights, because Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights enshrines everyone's right to not just have religious beliefs, but also to change their religious beliefs. So if you're going to punish people for changing their religious beliefs, you are violating their human rights. So hopefully I have answered that question comprehensively. Obviously, I don't expect Dan to necessarily agree, but I will say this: I think it's very brave of Dan to leave a voicemail. I wish more Jehovah's Witnesses would leave voicemails, which is why I'm going to call this video JW voicemail number 1. I'm hoping that there will be more. Clearly, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to engage with apostates like me in that way, but I suppose as the channel grows, as more witnesses stumble on the content I'm putting out, you just never know whether there will be another Dan, or maybe Dan will call in with another question. I'm always here to answer those sorts of questions, or indeed to debate with any Jehovah's Witnesses who want to engage in a respectful and productive dialogue. But that's pretty much all I've got for you in this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the John Cedars channel for more such videos, and as always, thank you for watching.